Hey guys, so I'm back. I know it's been forever, if you can't tell, which you probably can because there's a huge difference obviously in the equipment I'm using. I got a camera for my birthday from my parents. It was kind of like on the to-do list for funding and what I was saving for, and they kind of beat me to it, so I'm sorry it's taken so long for me to make a video. Things have been extremely busy and hectic and kind of like all over the place. So I hope this will be a good chance for you guys to see what I've been up to and what kind of direction I'm heading towards for YouTube. I will try to explain some of those ideas if I remember towards the end. Who knows if I'll actually recall that. But let's get started. I guess the plan for today was to just catch everybody up, let people know what I've been doing, what I am doing, and yeah, what I want to do with that, I guess. Let's get started, shall we? Okay, so I will pull up what I've got here. We will get started on questions. I'm sorry if this is a little disorganized. It probably will be, honestly. But I will start with the questions that people sent via Facebook, and then I'll jump to Instagram. So, the first question is in reference to mediums that I use. I've noticed you primarily work with oils. How has your use of watercolor evolved over the last year, and what are some of the inspirations on the choice of color and the subject matter? Well, to address the watercolors first, I used to paint with watercolors in high school, and I kind of stopped after an experience with a course that kind of just made me not want to work with it again. But I am currently in an independent study right now with a professor to kind of work on watercolor and reintroduce it to myself. Before, the subject matter and color scheme was pretty similar to what I'm doing now with my oil paintings. Vibrant colors, but still dark and sci-fi inspired. But it's kind of changed this year while I've been working on it, and the inspirations and concepts have kind of been along the lines of my personal studies with spiritual elements, so things like auras, chakras, energy fields, crystals, things like that, and just patterns in the natural world in general that happen. So that's kind of been the focus lately. Eventually I'd like the watercolors to move back to what I usually do, which is more figurative work, but I want to play around with just the beauty of the medium first. And I'm still kind of just working with that. It's kind of going slow because a lot of my time is going to my other painting course, which is an oil painting course, and since that's my focus, I am giving more time to that. But the watercolors have kind of been just another way for me to work and to actually see what doing something different does for me. It's created another pathway for me to consciously think about that I don't normally use when I'm working on other pieces. I think I addressed color a little bit, but I guess the colors have been pretty vibrant and exaggerated, super bright, and happier, I guess. Not so much darker colors or neutral colors, but more so just in your face, this is it, more rainbows and just colors like that, I guess. I want to try to do darker colors because I feel like it's harder for me to do darker colors with watercolors, so I'd like to challenge myself with that eventually, but we'll see how far I get this semester. Of course I can continue this outside, but we will see if I want to do that. It depends on what happens next year and so forth. The next question is, What's the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? I don't know, honestly, but that's hilarious that you ask that, because I feel like people always use that. The next question is, who influenced you the most? It's really hard to narrow down to one person. I have a lot of artists that, have inspired me. But I guess out of artists that are alive and that I personally know, I'd say that pretty much all of my Chicago friends that I've met are involved in some sort of art form, and they are like a constant inspiration because they are actually doing it and in the world now. I have to say Menton 3 has been extremely inspiring and helpful for me. He is an oil painter. He's now based in Chicago. If you guys haven't checked out Ars Memoria, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful gallery if you like more occult, darker work. And just in general, it's just a beautiful selection of work every time I've gone there. But Menton's been like a huge help for me as somebody who is, successful in the art world today. It's nice to hear somebody who is experienced to support me. So I think like as far as like really getting pushed past like any negativity that comes my way, like I've somehow managed to have Menton around me like at those points, and he has like given me nothing but inspirational words, and that has pushed me a lot farther. So I guess if I had to narrow it down to one person, it'd be Menton. But overall, my Chicago group of artists that I've met, like all of you have been such an inspiration for me to keep going and to keep growing with what I'm doing, and it shows me that I can like fit in somewhere and have like a community. So thank you all of you for that. Much love. The next question is, do you model your style off of a particular artist? I don't. I think I've had some like influences in the past. Like there's a few Vampire Freaks models who have inspired me to look into certain things, and that's going to continue to grow because it's also a community I'm involved in. But overall, I think like a lot of my ideas do come from myself, and are just like concepts that I may not want to paint or just want it to be more lively and real. Because I feel like, the modeling kind of is an extra outlet for creativity, so I kind of use that if I don't feel like I can create a concept on canvas efficiently, or if I feel like it'll communicate better through the modeling and photography. The next is, tell me about the Lady of a Thousand Faces. My neighbor gave me this question. He's actually the only person who's referred to me like this, but I do think it's a very interesting concept and way to look at like what I do, because one day I won't have makeup on, the next day I'll have normal makeup, and then the next day I'll be like all glammed out or all like freaky and spooky looking. So it really is kind of a way for me to project other parts of myself to the world that I normally would have hidden, and it gives me that way to express. It's just another form of self-expression, really. So the Lady of a Thousand Faces is me. It can be anybody. It can be anybody. It could be a part of me. It could be part of somebody else that I see. It really depends on the day and what I'm going for or what I'm doing with it. But overall, the Lady of a Thousand Faces, the phrase in general, is kind of really inspiring and kind of, it's just uplifting and gives you that nudge when it's like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do today. Oh, but I have 1,000 faces to pick from. More than that, millions, billions. I have so many different options. So, especially when I don't have real eyebrows. So the next question is, what's your process when coming up with ideas? Messy. It's messy and all over the place and chaotic. If I am in like my little zone, I can knock out multiple paintings like over and over again, and sometimes that'll be along the same lines of each painting, and it'll just kind of trail and be stepping stones. In those instances, it's kind of easier for me to create and just knock shit out and just get it out there onto canvas. And if it's not that, it's like the opposite to where I'm sketching, I'm writing, I'm trying to draw it out, and I'm just not liking what I'm doing. So my process kind of varies depending on like what's going on in my life. I'd say lately it's been kind of like not stagnant, but like kind of like dwindling and just like help me. So I've just been exhausted and trying to keep up with everything. But overall, it really does depend. And I know that's like a pretty cliche, easy way out answer, but you know, it is pretty unique to the project I'm working on. Next question is, have you considered painting on anything unorthodox to the usual, such as mirrors, mannequins, etc.? Yeah, of course I have. Mannequins I definitely want to paint on, but they're kind of expensive, and it's kind of hard for me to travel and just like go pick up a mannequin from people, and it's expensive to ship. I have painted on glass before. I've actually painted on glass ornaments. I've painted on clays, like ceramics, polymer clay, and stuff like that. Obviously, I've painted on my skin, my face. So I totally would. I'd do that more. I'd like to do that more in the future. The next question is, what are some of the worst comments on pieces you created, and how did that make you feel, and how did it affect your next art piece? I'm not going to say exactly what has been said to me because I'm pretty sure those people know exactly who they are if I were to talk about it. But overall, I haven't gotten anything super terrible said to me about my work, at least to my face. Overall, I've gotten like the type of feedback that you would expect to receive in critique, which is, you know, helpful information, helpful perspectives, and something to push you this way or that way, like depending on what you're doing. So I guess if I had to narrow it down, I think it's been most uncalled for to say certain things when I'm like not in critique. So like for example, I've had somebody say my work's sadistic, and I don't really get that. I don't know where that comes from, so that kind of bothered me. Just because it, you know, one, I wasn't asking for the information, I wasn't asking for the view, and then two, it was just kind of like, well, okay, that means I'm not communicating something correctly, or that means that that person just doesn't get it. So that was a little bothersome, and it really just angered me. I didn't really take my work in a different direction, but I did stop watercolor because of it for a while. Like, I literally stopped for an entire year, and it completely killed my inspiration for that medium. So I guess that depends as well. That's very, like, individual to a piece as well. But, you know, I have had critiques where I've come out crying and really upset because somebody will focus on something that, like, I didn't want to be the focus or something like that. And that just happens in critiques because people all see things differently and focus on different things in a piece. And sometimes in critique people get, like, hooked on one detail, but that's, like, whatever. I don't think that's, like, a huge issue or, like, as big of a deal as I made it at the time. But I've totally had, like, critiques where I'm bawling my eyes out afterwards, talking to my mom, going like, oh, they hated it. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've gotten anything too grotesque said to me about my work. Good for me, I guess. I guess for, like, in general, like, feedback from people, I have had people go ahead and assume that I'm not gonna make it just because I'm younger and I'm in school for painting. Yes, I know I'm in a hole. I know I've dug a hole for myself. You don't need to tell me. And the fact that I'm female, it seems to matter a lot to middle-aged men I've come across lately, which I don't understand. I'm just kind of like, if you don't see my work, you really can't say whether or not I'm gonna make it. And if you don't know my work ethic, you also have no room to say whether or not I'll make it. But overall, positivity, nothing but, like, you know, productive feedback, in critiques and such. Do you have any future plans with where you want to go with your artwork. I would like to go as many places as I can with it. I want to progress with the modeling and the makeup. I'd like to get into special effects, maybe take some courses on that. I, of course, want to do more shows, be at more gatherings that are artistically affiliated. There we go, that's the word. And just be more into the art community. I'd like to definitely do more paintings, of course. I'd like to experiment with new mediums. It kind of goes all across. Like, I could literally make an entire video just on this question, so I'll just stop it there. Next question. As a young lady that is working towards growing her brand and notoriety as a professional artist in the public eye, what have been your challenges? What have been your speed bumps? And what have you learned in the last year of working with others and doing more events? The biggest thing that I've learned about being at events and being around new people is that there's a difference between professionalism and socializing, and it's kind of hard to keep that boundary set, honestly. Some people are extremely persistent on breaking that, and it kind of makes it hard to actually be professional in some ways. I do my best to, like, be as kind as I can, but there's always some people who just don't understand that, you know, I'm working, and if I'm working, I can't really be interacting the same way I would if I wasn't working. As far as events go that are not for vending or where I don't have my work at, it's just great to get out into the community and meet other creative people and see what they do. The world around us is like our biggest inspiration, so it's good to take in as much of that as you're able to. As far as things I've learned goes, I've learned the most about myself and my own boundaries. I think I've learned a lot of that, not only through my art, but also through my experiences this past year. I've learned a lot about what I don't want my work to be about, or what I don't want myself to be about, and what I don't want around me. And that alone has leapt to a completely different level. As far as building my brand goes, you know, I really don't know how I've built it the way I have so far. I think I've just somehow have a good way with promoting myself and staying on top of that, because once you stop, like, promoting yourself, how can you expect others to promote you or your work? Confidence is kind of key, and if you don't have confidence, you have no reason to not have confidence, because that confidence is going to do nothing but help you grow. So never feel down on yourself about what you're doing, because if you don't like something you're working on now, chances are it's a stepping stone to something better. So do it, push through it, get through it, make it, and see where it takes you. Because ultimately that could be your breakthrough. And that's what I've learned for the past year, I guess, in a nutshell. And would you pay me like one of your French maids is the next question. Only if you pay me. Okay, so Instagram. I was asked to do intro to watercolor. I can't do that on this. I don't have enough room on my SD card, but that can be its own video in the future for sure. And this was sort of already asked, but I'll say it anyways. Where you want your art to lead you in life. It's phrased a little different, so I will answer and respond a little differently. I want it to lead me to wherever it's supposed to lead me, I guess. I don't feel like I have a set path. I don't feel like I have a set plan. But I do know that I go off of my intuition and what feels correct. And I guess I just want my art to lead me to where that is. Because ultimately I don't feel correct or right when I'm not doing well with my work. Or if I'm not liking what I'm doing. So I guess I just want to progress with my work and see where it takes me itself without me putting a restriction on where that'll go.